Hey Emily, I thought I would do another video for you, kind of a more kind of music theory, jazz chords and things like that, seventh chords. This one I'll call a key of G, chord extensions, alterations, guitar lesson. And so what I'll do today is kind of show you some different techniques. And I realized last time with the key of C, I didn't really get into a lot of extensions, 9ths, 11ths, 13ths, and some altered and diminished chords. So I thought this would be a good one to do that. And then also, I have some things planned out, but I also like to kind of keep things a little bit more spontaneous also to see what happens. So I guess what I'll start with today, and not necessarily in any particular order, I'll do is called shell voicing. So there's a lot of people talk about this. So key of G, G, F sharp, B. So you just have 3 notes here. So depending on how you finger them, then you'll have different notes that you can add. You can add the D there, or if you want to add the C sharp from the Lydian mode, or the opens. Okay, then so the 2 chord A, G, C. That's going to be A minor 7, and then you have those open strings there, the 9. And then you can also, so if you finger it with these 3 fingers, you can get the sus4. So that's kind of a nice sound there. Okay, then the 3 chord B, B, A, D, B minor 7. So that nice open sound. And then you can add the sus4 there. And these are just good overall chords to use too. Kind of almost like a 70s kind of sound. Okay, then the 4 chord would be C major 7, C, B, E. And you have a couple extra notes there. So then, so the advantage of using this particular fingering, so then you can kind of use your first finger. You can add the G note there. There's that Lydian note again. So G, F sharp, and then that's kind of hard to add there. And then if you can manage to D, back to C major 7. Or if you finger the chord like this, so that's a little bit of a stretch there. So you can do that with that C major 7 chord. Okay, so then D7, D, F sharp, C, D7 or D dominant 7th. That kind of sounds weird there. Add the A there, or you can add the flat 5, sharp 11. We'd have to talk about that later. Okay, so D. Okay, and then if you finger the chord like this, you get a good extensions here. You get the 13. You get flat 13, sharp 5. So that falls into the category of alterations because you're playing notes that aren't in the key of G, and that would lead into say maybe a G major 7 chord. G, B, D, F sharp. Do it one more time. So D7. So that leads you into that kind of what you want to do is take a pop tune and maybe make it more jazzy. So the beauty here with these dominant 7th chords, I can use that B note there to lead to the G major 7th chord, or I can use that B flat. So that's the beauty of these dominant chords. Okay, so that was that one. Okay, and then let's just do 2 more, I guess. So E, B. So that's going to be E minor 7. You can do the sus here. Okay, okay, and then let's do one more. So then F sharp, E, A, F sharp minor 7, flat 5, which you can also play here. Okay, so I'll play it in both playlists. So then if you add the C note here, B, C would be sus4 or flat 5. Same thing here. So there's your shell voicing, 3 notes. And that sounds like it maybe wants to go to some kind of G chord or G 7, something like that. Okay, so that's just a brief look at some shell voicings. Okay, what was the next thing? Okay, then I guess just in general, just knowing, root 6 chord and root 5 chord. So how about I'll go with that 1-6, 2 5 progression. So you have key of G. So let's say you had let's see, so how about this G major 7 chord? Okay, and then you have E minor, or you can have minor 9. Okay, then here A minor 7. Here's a very typical voicing. I'm using my third finger to bar here, G, C, E to A. And then if your pinky is dexterous enough, okay, A minor 7th, and then I'm going to jump up to this D7 here. So you can play that with the 13th, or you can also play it like this with the A note, discrete fingering, or you can play it as a bar. And then I'm going to jump back to the G. Right. So then with your G chords, you have a G, 2 fingers, major 7, 6 chord. Right. So those are some 1, 6, 2 5s on the root 6. Then root 5. I already did the G, B, D, F sharp. E minor 7, very typical chord, E, B, D, G, and then you can add this bar here. Then the A minor 7th chord you can play open. I think we've done that one before. Or you can play it as a bar here, which is kind of hard to do sometimes on acoustic guitars. It's hard to bar really high up on the fretboard. Okay, and then for the D7th chord, you have a couple choices, D, F sharp, C. Now the nice thing about that chord, so here I'll just do a little tangent. So you can do flat 9 here, and then that will lead back into some kind of, lead back into your G major 7 chord. Okay, go back to D7. So then this is a typical voicing here, and then obviously you would have maybe sus4 there, and then leading into some kind of G chord. Okay, and then this is a chord that you hear a lot, D, F sharp, C, E. D9 chord, either play discrete fingering, or you can bar your third finger here. So that's going to lead into some kind of G chord. So you can go, let's see, we'll do two solutions here. This is just a standard G chord either way, or into something like this. G, D, F sharp, B. Okay, then if you're, once again, if your finger's dexterous enough, you can add that 13 there. Okay, so that's just an overview of some basic chord shapes doing the 1, 6, 2, 5. I talked a little bit about that flat 9, so let's do some diminished. So here, let's see, one way you can do diminished is here. So G major 7, and then I'll go to E minor. How about I just do E minor here? E minor 7, okay, and then A minor 7. Okay, and then the diminish, I'm going to go ahead and let that, this is going to be a diminished chord that's going to function as your 5 chord. So A minor 7th, D7, so F sharp, A, C, E flat. So notice the same E flat that I did with my D7 before. And then I can resolve to this. How about that chord? That's a nice chord. Before, maybe you recognize that from the previous video. E, A, D, G. So that could be fingered with a thumb. That's a G6-9 chord, or you can just grab your thumb up over there. So I'll do that whole series of chords again. So G major 7. You can think of this as G6 or E minor 7. Notice I dropped in the low E there. So I'm still emphasizing the idea of adding in your opens. Okay, A minor 7th chord, or minor 9. Okay, then here's that diminished shape, functioning as your 5, and then resolving to the G6 line. All right, so that was I was one. Okay, and then the other thing you can do with these diminished, I talk about that, how you can move these. So anywhere along the way there, you can resolve. So major 7. So all these chords are what's called symmetrical. So F sharp, A, C, E flat. It's all the same 4 notes. So that can resolve to that same G, or to one of those G major 7 chords there. So that's some diminished ideas. I'm going to do a little different kind of diminished idea. So I'm going to go all the way up to here, G, B, D, F sharp. So there's kind of 2 moves here I wanted to show you. So G major 7 to either G6. Now that's a tricky chord to play. So it's a good place to start with that one, because that's sort of an unusual stretch for the finger. So that could be thought of as G major 7 to G6, or you can think of it as G major 7th to E minor 7. So that's the third relationship. So that's the one thing you can do. Or you could also, this is a very common thing, G major 7. That's another diminished chord, but here I'm doing, so instead of playing E minor 7th, I'm playing an E7. So whenever you do diminished, it's a 7, flat 9. Okay, and then I'm going to do, let's see, I'll go ahead and continue this. So G major 7, so E7, and that maybe wants to go to some kind of A minor chord, so I'm going to do this A minor chord up here. C, E, G, B, so A minor 9. Okay, now here, I'm going to do a sort of a tricky thing here, jazzy thing. So that becomes a D chord, a type of D7 chord. So I can play it like this, and then resolving back to that G major 7 chord. So I'll do a couple different variations there. So G major 7, E minor, E dominant, flat 9, A minor 9. Okay, so now I'll talk a little bit about these alterations. So what you can do instead there, so you can add in sharp 5, the B flat and the E flat, flat 9. So those are some alternations to the G. Okay, and then there, if you can manage. So you just do a different kind of fingering here. First finger, second finger, and then third finger, leading into the G major 7 chord. So I'll do that whole thing now. So G major 7, diminished with the E, it becomes an E7. Then we do the A. So it's a C major 7 shape on top, A minor 9. Okay, now I gotta finger this chord, A, D, C, B flat, and then you can you can go to that chord there, or what else would work there? If we get really tricky, that's kind of nice there. G major 7. Resolved to there. Okay, so that's some things with the altered chords and diminished. Okay, yeah. So a lot of different things you can do with those diminished chords. And let's see, I have here altered voicings. Another one that might work here. Let's go down to here. So you have G major 7. I'll use the shelf voicing, and then here I'm going to go to the E7. So instead of doing E minor, I'm doing E7, and I'm going to add this G and C here. Right, so that'd be another altered voicings: G, C sharp, C and G, sharp 9, sharp 5, and then I'm going to go to that A minor 7, A minor 9. Okay, go here. So what this is kind of a variation of that diminished chord. And then I'll resolve here to, how about something like that? I actually don't like that as much. I'll just go to this one here. Okay, so let me do that again. So I was on, oh yeah, I guess I start here. So G major 7, either like that or either the shell voicing or the D. And I'm going to go to that E7, sharp 9, sharp 5. So 1, 6, 2, A minor 7, A minor 9. And I'm going to go to the diminish, but I'm going to add this, that note on top. So that's going to make it like a 13 chord. Yeah, so then you just, you have a good enough ear, and so you might hear it, you might hear that chord resolving in a different way. So yeah, I think what I'll do here with that one, I'll just kind of vamp on that a little bit, 6, 2, 5, and I'll put the metronome on. I have this metronome set up for 58. Maybe what I'll do is I'll consider that 2 and 4. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Very standard kind of thing. So rather than playing the, and that's a very typical thing that you would do when if you're practicing a jazz progression, is to click the metronome, but consider every click to be 2, like the down, to be the 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2. Another kind of usage there. Okay, so then voice leading. Okay, so what was I doing with voice? Yeah, I guess here, I guess if I wanted to do some voice leading here, G major 7, G, B, D, F sharp to the 6th chord, E minor. So notice I'm only moving one finger there. Okay, then if I wanted to go to the A minor, moving one finger there, A minor 7. And then if I wanted to just go to there, that's going to be your D9 chord without a root, and then back to the G chord. Okay, so that's be considered like a 1, 6, 2, 5. I'll do that again. So G major 7 chord, change one note to the E minor 7, change one note to the A minor 9, A bass, and then here I can change this note here. So that's going to be like that D9 chord. I'm just implying that, well, I'm using an A bass there, and then I can change this E to E flat, and then to that G chord. So you notice that this shape, I've been playing this a lot. This can be for the top of the G chord. This could be the top of an E minor 7 chord. It could also be the top of an A minor. And then here, then you have to resolve here to, okay, D7. Yeah, here's another move I was thinking about earlier when I was thinking about getting ready for this video. So if you're on just like a regular D or D7 chord, this is kind of a nice move here. So D7. So I'm going D7 to D, A, C. Yeah, I think that's in Tin Man in America. chord like that, or D, and then there's some kind of G chord. Okay. All right, and then I have a note about here, pentatonic chords. So I talked about those in the last video. So A minor is also in the key of G. So like, let's say you're doing like a Dorian Vamp, like Moondance. That's kind of a nice sound. A minor 7, B minor. Right. So these pentatonic shapes really give you like, because of the fourth intervals, really gives you a good sound. So so Moondance, A minor 7, B minor 7. So A minor 7th, B minor 7th, and here's that shape I was talking about. So A minor pentatonic to B minor pentatonic. So I'll just kind of reiterate another important skill or thing to think about is A minor 7th, A minor pentatonic, B minor 7, B minor pentatonic. So if you're doing like then A minor to B minor, which is a kind of a typical kind of vamp that you'll hear. And there's that dropping in that open A. Kind of a cool sound. Then this shape is really good to use also. That part. So that's another. So that would be like from the B minor pentatonic. So if you were to take this scale here and move it down to here, that's what you would get. B, E, A, D, F sharp. Actually, that's a good one. I forgot about this one too. So just barring all the way across. Okay. So then the technique that you would use here is use your first finger and then you use your second finger to help you put that down. So if you're going to be on an acoustic. A minor 7. Kind of almost sounds like a Motown song. Heat wave burning in my heart. Or something like that. Okay, so then this chord right here, kind of a nice sound. You drop in your E, and all of a sudden you have this kind of really kind of spacey, kind of jazzy chord. So that's going to be like an E minor. This would be an E minor also. So these pentatonic shapes are kind of interchangeable. So that's kind of like an E minor 7th chord. So let's say you were doing like G major 7, like a G chord. There's your G with that shape. Then E minor, which is 6. Then A minor. See how that's the same thing? Okay, and then for my D chord, I'll just go to. This is kind of nice here. So that's gonna that would function as a type of D9 chord. So obviously this is just like a lot of these things. This is all kind of very dreamy and everything. So you wouldn't want to do this all the time. So you just do it. G. Here's that E minor, A minor, and then the D. That's a sound that you hear a lot in that kind of pop stuff. Like Carole King kind of stuff. Or this is kind of nice here. So let's say you're on this G chord again. So for this E minor, that's a cool sound there. Okay, I'm gonna go here. Okay. Oh yeah. So this I forgot about this one. So then if I want to go to the A minor 7th chord, C, E, G, B. That's just another way of playing the A minor 7 chord with that. And then this is a very slick move. Taking that G note, and that becomes then your D7th chord. Okay, I'll do it again. So so I'm going a G, and then here for the E minor, I'm using that shape. And then for the A minor, And then for the D, yeah, so I could add the D bass here, but I'm trying not to make the chord voicings too hard to finger. Now, this is very slick. 9, flat 9, and then resolving to some kind of G chord, like that one, or G here, or all right. See if there's anything else I was thinking about. Yeah, so let me just go through that little voicing thing one more time. So here, so if I had G, I haven't done this, G, B, D, F sharp. So that's it. And then a lot of times these voicings can be used interchangeably. So that's G major 7. That becomes an E minor. And then here's your A minor 9. Here's your D chord. That's like a D9, 13, flat 9. And then you're back to G. So there's another example, kind of like a voice leading example. And then open, E minor, A minor. Okay, so that's a lot to think about there. So if you're in the key of G, I gave you some different possibilities of chords you can use. All right, so I think what I'll do for to end this video, I'll kind of do what I did in the previous video. I'll put the metronome on 58, and I'll do like a slow kind of ballad thing, mostly doing like 1-6-2-5 to end off this video, and then improvising with some of these chords.